There is nothing like starting a new show with a win for the Commanders in week one. Nick Ashooh, Anthony Armstrong, David Harrison's going to join us in a bit. This is the debut of the Commanders squad show. And Anthony, we get ourselves a win to start this thing off.
Man, you get a dub, you get the ball spread around to all types of people, and you get a Bill Merritt sighting at the end to pretty much ice this thing. I don't know what else you could ask for. This was a beautiful way to start the season. I'm glad they got this W, 21 points on the board.
We look at everything that went right and everything that went wrong coming up next here on Commanders Squad.
Hail to the Commanders! It's the Commanders Squad. Everything Washington Commanders every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of the nation's capital. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Rally the burgundy and gold. The Commanders Squad Show starts now.
1-0 for the Commanders as they get their week one win over the Giants. And it was a game for a while where I got a little bit concerned, I'll be honest with you, with some of the letting the Giants hang around, which I think wasn't one of the more concerning things with that. Don't forget, though, is we got to make sure we mention this right off the bat because I'm following all the rules here. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. You and I were texting, obviously, during the show. David Harrison is going to jump on with us in a little bit. He's heading into the locker room, Anthony. But, one of the big things that obviously stood out in this game, and that was going to have a big spotlight on it as well, was the offense for the Commanders. There were some bumps, there were some hiccups, but in the end, when we watch it, you get a game-sealing touchdown from Deebo Samuel to kind of really make this thing out of reach.
Yeah, it was one of those things that you didn't know what you were going to get from the offense completely because you didn't have your main guy there all training camp. We didn't know what you were going to look like when you added Terry McLaurin into the mix. And yeah, you're right. There were some points in there where things were a little bit slow and there were some hiccups and things were a little bit off, if you will. But that's what week one looks like. And ultimately, the better team came out. And then when you lean on your defense to get some things done, the offense was able to make some plays when they got rolling eventually. And they sealed it late with the Deebo run and then the Bill Merritt run on that final drive as well.
I know you and I haven't necessarily talked about this yet, but like one of my things and the things that I've been saying on, radio in DC recently too, has been like with all the stuff going on this offseason with the offense and, Terry not being there and the injuries to the offensive line. And then you add somebody like Deebo Samuel, who's obviously going to be a major part of this offense. One of the concerns that I certainly had was like, what does this offense look like early on? Are there going to be some issues where they look out of sync, some overthrows, just those little details that you want to try and get sharp, but it's hard when not everybody's around. You definitely saw that in this game, but like the key here is they have playmakers that you can put the ball in their hands when you really need it. And I think that's what is so important about that Deebo Samuel touchdown. It's not just that they won the game. It's not just that they got Deebo heavily involved in this game, over 100, almost 100 total yards of, from the line of scrimmage just for Deebo alone. But when you look at what it was, they got the ball just in his hands, right? It was like, we got to figure out how to make this work with whatever we can. And the great thing is that you have guys that can do different things on this offense. They're versatile, which can kind of help them overcome some, maybe like a little bit of the timing issues that we saw with them throwing the football earlier in this.
Yeah, it gives you a different option. You can think about the past receivers that have been opposite Terry McLaurin. I mean, no disrespect, but they haven't come with the same type of clout that Deebo Samuel is going to bring to the table. So now you have a playmaker on that side where if they are able to keep 17 down and not let him get a lot of targets, they can lean on somebody else. I loved seeing the depth of the receiver position. Noah Brown was showing up. He was doing what he did last year, catching a lot of passes over the middle, and then also able to be physical in the running game when they needed him to be. So ultimately, they've made some plays and found some ways to get some job done without 17 there. Even looking at Chris Moore, that big catch on the sideline, I think that was big to help get some momentum early in the game. So there's still going to be some growth in that receiver room and what they do with Jayden Daniels. So there's still more that this offense can come into. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury is cold when it comes to drawing up some plays. He's got his guy Wes Welker there. There's going to be a lot of creativity going in there. Let a synergy. There's going to be some more excitement coming from this offense.
You obviously know a lot about playing the wide receiver position and timing and all these different things that have to go into the start of the year. How much do you think, and obviously you're not necessarily there in the locker room now, but you've got experience obviously being there, in the NFL and, with this team in the past. Like when you look at just kind of what you saw from this offense as a whole, did it look like it was a timing thing? It was a lack of just everybody being out there in training camp? Is it maybe a lack of guys getting out there during the preseason, because we're seeing fewer and fewer starters play during the preseason. Because, like, just kind of paint a picture for us of what that means in the offseason and that work to really be able to be ready. And, like, let's be honest with ourselves, right? There is probably a level of, like, a first couple weeks of the season, it's still real NFL football versus anything you're doing in practice, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first week, everybody's trying to figure out what you're going to do, and I'm talking offensively and defensively. So they're going to be a little bit more patient on the defensive side and try to slow things down and make Jayden make the decisions. And he did a good job of dispersing the ball around and finding other places to get to. But when you talk about the timing of the offense, the quarterback has to be on point. He has to know where his receivers are going to be. And really today, I thought it was all on Jayden. He seemed a little bit off. We were texting about this. His timing, he just seemed to be a touch behind on a lot of those throws. The early one to Zach Ertz, where they're going to put it in the scoring card as a drop. But ultimately, hey, we could say, hey, Jayden, put the ball on that front shoulder, and we get this first down to keep this drive going. So ultimately, we look at the tape. We're going to say there's a lot of points that were left on the board. I mean, there's a lot of penalties, a lot of slight inaccuracy in some passes. So those things are going to get cleaned up. I think ultimately Jayden was probably processing what he saw, and it made him just a tick slower than what we're used to seeing.
There was a lot of narrative this offseason, too, about, sophomore slump. And, like, I get it. We've seen that in the past with some quarterbacks and offenses, and it's just kind of like it's fair for people to feel that way, right? Were you at all, or are you at all, or has anything changed, like any sort of feeling at all about the potential of a sophomore slump for Jayden Daniels? Or is it, because I'll tell you right now, for me, the reason why I'm not worried is because of the veterans that are around him, the relationship with Bobby Wagner, teaching him things, from the other side of the field and what that looks like, the maturity, the experience that he's certainly had in college too, and what we had last year. So, like, for me personally, it's not fanboy for me at all. Like, I mean, I've been a sad fan of and covered this team for so many years that, like, I've been about as honest as anybody when it comes to my feelings for this team. But when I look right now, I still, even with the offense not looking completely sharp in this game, I don't have any sort of worry that, like, oh, there's going to be a big sophomore slump. Watch out. Like, that doesn't mean that teams will know a little bit more, see a little bit more on Jayden Daniels, all of these things. But, like, I don't look at this as one of those, like, a major drop off from last year.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's going to be one of those major sophomore slumps that everybody's trying to predict. I mean, that's the easy way out to say that. But the way the guy prepares is one thing that comes that's different, right? He prepares better than most pros do, the way he's doing the virtual reality and studies defenses. This was week one. So whatever they rolled out there was new to Jayden as well. I guarantee the next time they match up, if they run the same thing, he's going to put up many more points. But you talk about the veterans, and I also want to think about the staff around him, the support system around him. How many quarterbacks have been in the position that he's in? Marcus Mariota, Josh Johnson, Kingsbury, David Blau's former NFL quarterback, Tavika Pritchard. So there's so many people there to help nurture him and insulate him and make sure he's going to be able to prepare himself. But they're talking about it on the broadcast. The guy is the one who's taking the leadership role. Jayden is calling the meetings. He's doing the thing to set the standard of where he wants everybody to show up. So he'll probably take the onus of those throws this game, and he knows he's going to step his game up. But, I mean, the dude prepares. He does what he needs to do. That tells me he's going to fight off a sophomore slump.
And I think what's really important too is that you can tell that, like, this team totally buys in to him. And I know, like, we've gotten past that point now where, like, he's not a rookie and it's not, but you can tell that there is a leadership quality that's there that everybody kind of bought into right away, which I think is just going to make you feel a little bit better. Cause that's, like, my biggest thing, right? Listen, you get a win. It's hard to get wins in the NFL. We understand that a win's a win. Like, we've heard all the cliches, but they exist for a reason. The big thing for me is that seeing some of the I don't even want to use the word issues, right? Like, just some of the, like, got to shake off the rust type deal, like, however you want to describe it in this. I just look at that and go, okay, you've got the right pieces in place, the right mindset, already the right culture there, where I just think that they're going to build on this as the weeks go on, and we're going to see a sharper and sharper offense from them too.
Yeah, I don't really think this is going to be one of those up and down roller coaster type seasons. Last year, they found a way to have a nice, solid trajectory and continually find ways to win. I mean, shoot. Why would they change now, right? They've only improved on offense, and now you've got some tape and some things that you're going to be able to address in practice. I mean, I'm looking across the offensive line. Connerly had a little trouble with Brian Burns, and rightly so. Brian Burns is one of the best in the business for a reason. He got a big bag for a reason. So Connerly's going to have to get his game picked up. But frankly, when you look at it, he's got Tunsil to lean on. He's got Allegretti. He's got Beatis. He's got a lot of other veterans around to help coach him up. And frankly, he gets to go against Von Miller too. So if I had questions, I'm going to go talk to Von and say, can you help me fix my game?
Tell you what, for all the things wrong with the Giants, that defensive line, that pass rush, 3 sacks on Jayden Daniels today, man, they made his life absolute hell. And I think, it's in a lot of ways, it's a good kind of exposure right away to the season, because you talk about who Jayden Daniels sees in practice, but it's also now seeing some new looks from a really good pass rush and a good defensive line, guys that can get after the quarterback with the Giants, where that's kind of a good wake-up call to start the season for Jayden Daniels, to then be able to take that film and then really like build off of that. Because I'm not in there with him, but it sure sounds like he's become a pretty significant film junkie, which that's how the greats get better. Sit there and watch a ton of film and see what you did wrong and get better with it.
Yeah, you got to use that tape to find out what the next step is. What's the next play? One of the things I always look for is a quarterback being able to make the big boy throw, essentially, where it's like, I have a little bit of a window and I'm going to throw it anyways, even though maybe I shouldn't, but I trust my guy and I know I can put it in a place that he's going to be able to make that catch. Jayden made those plays last year, but now we need him to make those plays this year. And then shout out to folks in the comments too. We got Gerald P. was saying, what's up? Cash Washington saying 1-0 baby. Eddie Crosland gave us a bill. I don't know. I want to know what the energy was like in the stadium, because on TV it looked electric, but I want to know what it was like in there. You let me know. There it is. You added it. Yeah, Bill, getting the Bill shout out. What? Man, I don't know. What was most exciting for you? You mentioned being a sad fan for so many years. So I'm going to give you your chance to just be a happy fan for once. Tell me what got you most fired up about this matchup, just from the offensive side.
I think it's Bill. This is a great and it's a beautiful segue that shows that you're a professional here. It's our first time doing a show, and I can already tell we're going to work together just fine. Let's be honest, Bill, the running back, man, there's a lot of hype around this guy. Like, there have been preseason heroes in the past, and it happens all around the NFL. But to see somebody like that step up and really put themselves in a position to make some major plays and get a major, because I'll be honest, I was surprised that Chris Rodriguez was a healthy scratch in this game. I thought we'd at least see him out there on the field and get something out of it, especially with the growth and him being in better shape and getting faster in the offseason and all the work that he's put in. But with all of the hype around Bill Croskey-Merritt and all the conversation and everybody just getting worked up at how great this kid can be, we did see that, especially late with that big run. It tells you, okay, this could be, it may not be the best running attack in the NFL, but the key here is that it's more consistent than where it was last year, because I know Jayden's got legs. I know the guy can run, but like, realistically, if we can avoid as much of him running as possible and keep him healthy, unless it's absolutely necessary, but you can establish the run with other guys where that's actually their job in the backfield, I think that's something that's really, really promising for them.
I'm with you on Rodriguez. I thought he was going to be the power scheme and the guy that was going to really bruise out those yards. But frankly, they found a way to get 3, 4, 5 yards of carry. And Bill getting that 82 was big. And him having that ability to break away from people. I was in the garage hollering, just screaming. I'm like, that's house call. It's got to be 6. But he ended up getting walked down a little bit. But I'm excited for what he brings. When you
Do you watch games in the garage?
Now I got a setup. Yes, in the garage. I was trying to get away from the field, man. I was like, y'all got to get out of my zone. I'm trying to focus. They in here watching stuff to keep them occupied, and so I moved to the garage where I can get a little loud this go around. So yeah, when Bill took off, I think my neighbors were worried a little bit.
It's funny. I got the whole setup in the garage too. Had some friends over, and it's like, listen, when the weather's nice, if I could get the fresh air but still watch all the football I want to watch, then like, you're in a really, really good spot. So yeah, I think right now when we look at this, I sit there and I look at Jacory Croskey-Merritt, 10 carries, 82 yards and a touchdown. Now, granted, it's padded a little bit with that 42-yard run late, but that's what you want. Like, Cliff Kingsbury has talked about wanting to have guys on this offense that are going to be versatile, that are also going to make big plays when they need it. Now, Jeremy McNichols, you also have him out there because he's a blocker, but in terms of running backs, they've got different roles that they can certainly fill. But to have those big chunk play moments, Deebo with the 19-yard touchdown, the big run, like I just mentioned, from Bill Croskey-Merritt, you look and go, okay, they've got some guys that in those key moments, those back-breaking first downs that you can get in the fourth quarter, that's what's going to make a difference for them.
Yeah, they have playmakers that can take this thing to the house, and I think the addition of Deebo and really the presence of Noah and their ability to block in those running situations, and I'm glad that Bill's able to break off some runs. You're going to get some play action passes in weeks 2, week 3, and so on from Terry McLaurin. So the performance so far, where it being a little bit quiet, that's on brand, on trend for the matchup against the Giants, just how they play their defense. But I think you're going to still see Terry get active and get a lot of deep balls this go round.
And that's what we really wanted. I'm seeing a lot in the comments here about Bill being a steal, and it's absolutely true. I think most people realize that he actually played more at Arizona. Probably wasn't going to be a 7th-round pick. So that was a great steal for this team. This was a great opportunity for them to get somebody and get some value late in the draft where maybe he becomes a, almost every down back. They got some talent in that backfield where Austin Eckler is going to maybe be your 3rd down back, but you can get a lot of looks. You can do a lot of things if you're Cliff Kingsbury with this offense, and I think that's something that's really, really important. All right, we're going to look more into the run game coming up, and one of the other parts of this team, one of the other units that Anthony Armstrong absolutely loved from what he saw today, right here on the Commander Squad show, the debut of this show. Coming back in a second. But we do have to remember here not to forget. By the way, I will point out as part of how this show goes, I'm pushing a lot of buttons, and I told them right away, guys, you want me to push the buttons? There is a chance that some of these buttons are not going to get pushed exactly the way that you'd actually want them. But that being said, let's talk about Prize Picks here, right? We're brought to you by Prize Picks. It's the daily fantasy app where making the right call can eventually pay off. And I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in, right? We all want to cash in. This is important. Football's back now. I think we all know that. And with Prize Picks, it's the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. I've been using Prize Picks a lot lately. It's fun. And listen, maybe you're in a state, you're watching this, where you can't, can't use certain apps that are out there. Guess what? You can get in on the action and then win and get a nice little payback here from Prize Picks. They let you do it. It's quick. It's easy. It's one of my favorite ways to follow along with football throughout the entire season. Checking some projections like Josh Allen for more or less than 270 yards passing. Saquon Barkley, more or less for 1 rushing touchdown. Already had that earlier this week. Saquon's going to be getting in the end zone a lot this season. People are certainly going to be stepping in on that. You got a Lamar Jackson sitting there at they got crazy discounts too, believe it or not. Lamar Jackson, I'm looking at that, just more or less half passing yard, not even 1 passing yard, half a passing yard, just to get you in, just so you can get a nice win and get in on the action. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Locked On NFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. And sometimes we do things smoothly, and sometimes we won't. I did just pushing the buttons best I can. Like I told you, Anthony, before this, I said, they were like, oh, yeah, you got to push the buttons too. And I said, wait, what? I got to do that? So, okay, here we go. We'll do the best that we can with that. I do want to look a little bit more at this run game, though, too, specifically because we do have the defensive line that I want to look at. But the reason why I want to talk so much about this backfield is because there was a ton of attention on it. It was last year, and it was as much as we had the Terry McLaurin contract situation as part of the discussion. Dude, let's be honest with ourselves here. The run game last year was wildly inconsistent. The offseason was about trying to improve that. And then it was Brian Robinson. Was he going to be here? And then he's not going to play in the preseason. And they trade him to the 49ers. So the question then becomes, well, okay, is Bill Croskey-Merritt going to be that guy? Well, I mean, again, I mentioned it before. 10 carries, 82 yards and a touchdown with that 42-yard run. But you still did have 6 carries from Austin Eckler for 26 yards, which is kind of what you expect. A little bit from Jeremy McNichols, 4 for 25 in that as well. So they're still spreading out the touches. Let's just look at this game first before we start looking into the future, obviously, with this. What this does tell me is they love Bill as much as we thought they would, but they're not going to just start giving him the football 15, 20, 25 times a game. They're going to get some of these other backs involved with, again, on top of that, Chris Rodriguez, a healthy scratch in this game too.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some changes. You'll probably see Chris Rodriguez activated, and it's not going to be for the running game. It's going to be for the special teams aspect, and we'll get on that. I'm sure we will. But Bill Merritt, he brings something that respectfully Brian Robinson didn't have. It was that electric ability to take that thing to the house from a long distance away. He has that in his bag. He has the ability to kind of be like an Austin Eckler, little clone, if you will, a little mini version of it. So to be able to learn from those guys, I think he's going to bring a lot of versatility that we've already seen. Obviously, McNichols, he's going to be able to block. And when you can pass block, you're going to be in the NFL. Like, that is it. You're going to find yourself on somebody's roster. The number that I need to come down is at 11 for 66 for Jayden. Earlier, I was kind of surprised to see as many designed runs as they gave him. And he was getting downhill, like finishing with his shoulders forward. It looked like one of those drills that you see early on in practice where they're saying finish forward so you can, fall for a couple more yards, maybe split the defenders. Take that down a little bit, hand a couple more carries to the guys with the 20 numbers. That would work for me. I think also Cliff lost the momentum with the run game in that kind of in that third quarter range. It was a while since they had handed the ball off, and then they finally got back to it. You saw what happened when Bill took it for 40 some odd yards.
Yeah, and you're seeing here too in the comments here is Quan.com53 says, a lot. It's the chunk plays, and that's really what Cliff Kingsbury was looking for, right? And when you think about it, I mean, every NFL team wants that, because if you have somebody that can at any given moment take a play that looks like it's going to be a 5-yard gain or hell, a 2-yard loss and turn it into a 20, 30-yard gain, I mean, that changes the whole dynamic of an entire offense. I mean, it makes them that much more dangerous. But, it's interesting that you mentioned Chris Rodriguez from a special teams perspective. And guys, also, it helps to make a team that when you can contribute on special teams on top of that. But do you think that we're going to see more of him also in that backfield? Is there going to be a level of splitting carries? I guess because for me last year, you saw those moments. It was the Giants game last year. It was definitely the Titans game where you see the flashes of Chris Rodriguez and you go, oh, there's something there. But, and he's talked about weight gain a little bit and trying to get faster and working on some things. And he worked really hard this offseason to really get his top speed up, hit 20 miles an hour in the preseason. And people are like, whoa, look at what he, so it's there feels like there's a level of improvement there that is going to, you'd think would carry over to the regular season. But it sounds like, are you in the boat that maybe there won't be as much in terms of touches for him as I'm thinking?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm going to take away touches from Bill Merritt, but if he's going to be activated, you're probably going to find a situation to where he's going to get a carry. That's what Dan Quinn does. He puts players in position to do what they do the best. I'm not looking for Chris Rodriguez to be my lead back on first down. But if I do need, maybe a 1-yard run and I need a power back put in there, put Chris in the game. You know what I mean? I think he's going to fit his role. And I'm not looking for you to come in here and carry the ball 10 times. No, that's not why you're on the squad. Bill Merritt's going to find his role increase. I like how Austin Eckler is being used. His role is going to probably stay the same. So nothing drastic, but just a little mix to put in Chris Rodriguez and see what he can do. He's going to probably bring a spark or two to the offense.
Yeah, I remember early last year, too, there was obviously a lot of, Jayden Daniels and how many attempts he had per game. And that's going to happen with any quarterback that has that ability to run the football like that. But you're right, that 11 for 68, it's nice. You get a 14-yard gain in there. You get the 68 yards. You get all these things that, Jayden Daniels brings to the table. And I don't know, maybe some of it is just trauma for me because I remember 2012 and beyond and how, here's the one thing you'll learn about me, man. I got scars. I got scars from years of this, But when you look at obviously the way that he runs the football, he's so smart and it's getting out of bounds when he can and making those right plays. But it's something that you want to, and it's really, there's no perfect formula for it because we talk about it all the time with Josh Allen and the Bills, and it's my God, stop running the football so much. And he's big and he lowers his shoulder, and you're getting all nervous. And I'm not a Bills fan, but I see it and go, oh my God. But there is that kind of where is the balance? And I don't know if there's a true answer for this, but it's kind of a question of where that balance is between accentuating all of the talents that Jayden Daniels has, but also doing it in a way that doesn't put him at harm's risk as much as possible. And I say harm's risk because this is the NFL and it's a physical game.
Yeah, I see that Scooby has a question. He was asking, did we ever just need 1 yard today? And you know what? I feel like there were a couple of spots in there. In my notes, I know that there were some notes about some short yardage situations, but they've done a really good job of converting those things. And I will say, well, I'm gonna go back on Jayden's runs. I'm not too mad at him having the design. When you have 2 blockers in front of him, I'm cool. Like that's something that's protected. I don't necessarily want him navigating and running away from a lot of pass plays. Passing up where you could make a throw in those natures. But there wasn't a situation, I don't think, too often where it was like 3rd and 1, and we really needed to convert. So there were probably a couple in there, but nothing where I felt like you didn't have an option to go to. You know what I mean? That's where I don't want to be at with this offense. And a lot of times with teams, when you only have guys with certain skill sets, you're not able to address them. Like, well, if we get put in this corner, what are we going to do? I think this roster gives you answers. Jayden Daniels gives you options always. So putting yourself and staying ahead of the clock is good. He doesn't run and just try to scramble in the backfield and just waste yards for us. I think that's good.
Yeah, and I think as the season goes on too, there obviously is going to be a little bit more of a settling in with all the different things that you've got going on offense. We have not gotten to the rest of the receivers here before we start looking at the defense. And I bring that up, one, because I don't know, a little bit about playing receiver in the NFL, just a tiny bit. Chris Moore had a 34-yard reception, and that was one of the things. I mean, you were texting me that during the game. You brought up like him getting a little bit more of an opportunity, just simply because that was really the question during the preseason, right? Was, okay, we've got no Terry McLaurin. Who's going to at least step up in the preseason and maybe take some of these opportunities? Deebo, obviously the big one, 7 for 77. The touchdown was a rushing touchdown. Chris Moore had a 30-yard reception. Austin Eckler, 3 catches out of the backfield for 31. Then there's Noah Brown, who we didn't see at all in the preseason, was hurt a lot through camp, 2 catches for 27 yards. And we've avoided it to the point, but let's be honest with ourselves here. Terry McLaurin, 2 for 27. He's going to be under the spotlight constantly now because of the offseason, because of the narrative, and because of the money that he's making. Fair or not, that's just how the NFL works. So every game that Terry McLaurin doesn't put up 7 catches for 120 and a touchdown, people are going to go, see, maybe he wasn't worth the money. It's not fair necessarily because there's a million other things that go into that. But you and I both know that that's going to be a conversation with him.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, they're gonna point at it, but we look at it. I looked at the stats. The last couple games, he hasn't had over 50 yards against the Giants specifically. This defensive coordinator, they play a certain type of defense where it's gonna essentially negate him from the game plan. That's just how it goes. And sometimes in the league, they roll the safety over the top, and it's going to make the offense go elsewhere. I don't think you're going to have to worry about him having a hell of a season. He's going to still perform because it's Terry McLaurin. He's done it with a much lesser quarterback. Let's be real. I mean, I could have been throwing him the ball, and he'd have had a 1,000-yard season. Okay, so I think I got like 2 career passing touchdowns in all of my life of football, Nick. I got 2. And damn it, Terry would have been one of them if I was out there throwing the rock around. But when you talk about getting chances, they had to give the guys opportunities who had been there. They had to give Chris Moore a chance because he had been performing well enough. And I love having the opportunity to go to so many different people. What do we got? 1, 2, 3, 7 different receivers. I think Jayden did that often last year where he could just get the ball to a lot of different people. And that gives you options. You just have to have a little bit of patience. This isn't an offense where you're going to force the rock to Terry McLaurin 10, 12 times, but he will get his touches and he will be efficient with them.
I'd love to see more from Jalen Lane. I know he's a rookie, and I know it's going to take some time, but I'd love to see some more looks for him. I know they have him in the return game, and that's certainly going to help a little bit. But as the season goes on, he's the one that I've really looked at because of his versatility, where you go, okay, if he starts getting those touches and getting more comfortable in this offense, I feel like he's somebody that can be one of those, as the season goes on, there's always one player on everybody's roster that kind of just gets comfortable with their role. That's sort of that's the name. That's where I kind of put a spotlight every single week, kind of seeing what he's going to do. Just an 11-yard reception on 2 targets today. But again, the offense has had a lot of guys in and out. They've been moving all over the place. I didn't go into this expecting the offense to look good. I expected kind of similar to what I saw. So in the end, I'm not disappointed and I'm not worried in any way. But when it comes to sort of that wide receiver depth, Noah Brown's going to be who he is. We know what he can bring to the table. But I think Jalen Lane is somebody that as the season goes on, I'd expect to see a lot more from him.
Jalen Lane is going to be what De'Ami Brown was last year. Right, when De'Ami started catching those deep balls later on, when teams start to play up, those safeties started to get a little nosy with Deebo and with Terry and all those guys running in that 10 to 12, 10 to 20-yard range, Jalen Lane is going to break one through the top. Trust me, it's going to happen here soon. You just got to be patient for it. Got to be patient for it. It's going to take some game plans. It's going to take some scheming, but it'll make it happen. I trust the guy from what he did in the preseason. He ran some good routes. He's able to get some separation, and he's strong with his hands. But where he really was making an impact, and I think he's going to make an impact first, is punt return. I felt confident with him back there, and right, like it just felt like, okay, something good is going to happen with the ball in his hands, even if it's a fair catch. Like I didn't have any worries about him catching the rock. I just knew that the ball was in good hands when Jalen Lane was back there. So I'm excited for this young fella. I'm excited for him for real.
Real quick, I think we're talking about the return game here. They change the kickoff rules every year. I know that. And now we're moving up to the 35 and all these. Where are you on where all these rules are now? Because I certainly want to see more returns. I feel like we've taken so much of that out of the game. But it's just when you start doing something so new like the NFL has with the whole different setup and all these different things, I feel like it's going to take a little bit of time for special teams coordinators to really figure out some strategies that work. Where are you on it?
You know, honestly, the way that you see the kickoff happening, this is how they practice kickoff. We don't always, they're just taking away the 40-yard sprint aspect of it. That's what you would normally see. They have that 40-yard sprint, and then that's where players have to start navigating each other with weaving and bobbing and things like that. Now, personally, as a smaller player, I needed that 40 yards so I could fly past somebody like a Ferrari. Now, when you're starting at 5 yards away, you got to be a little bit more physical and be able to get off some blocks. You can still have impact. So it just changes maybe how your roster is worked out. That's why I think Luke McCaffrey has upped his game and upped his value, because he has value on kickoff this year. So the kickoff rules, I'm not really tripping on it. This is how the game is going to be played. Since they made it to go all the way to the 35 now, it makes it where you kind of need to allow a return to happen. And so you're going to get some more excitement, which means you're going to get a couple of touchdowns. Luke McCaffrey, mark it down now. What's today's date? 9/7. I am saying Luke McCaffrey is going to house a kickoff. All right. He's going to have a kick return for a touchdown sometime this season. Put it on the board. I'll put it up there next to my signed Terry sign, and we can just track this thing all year.
I think that's actually what we're going to need to do is, and maybe our next episode this week, because we'll be doing this show twice a week. Every single post-game show will be here. David Harrison will join us as soon as he can. Obviously, he's got like 3 things to do, 10 things to do out there at the stadium. But I think we all need to have at least like 1 or 2 season-long predictions. Something extreme is going to happen. So we'll think about that. You've got one already down. I promise I'll bring one to the table. Don't you worry about that. Yeah, and we'll have something by next episode to be ready to go with that, which, by the way, short week for the Commanders, because obviously they go to Green Bay on Thursday Night Football for really what is the actual official start to Thursday Night Football. It doesn't actually count when they play that first NBC game. All right, we've looked at one side of the football. Commanders 21-6 win over the Giants. But what about the other side? We'll look at that next here on the Commander Squad. But let's not also forget here that, of course, we've got ourselves, yes, the NFL back. We've got it. It's here. It feels good. And honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans like David is right now. Miss him, but that's all right. You are cheering for your team. It's fun. It's a great experience. But let's be honest, getting tickets, it's a pain sometimes, isn't it? You got these queues and login screens and prices jumping at checkout. And that's when it gets just mind-blowingly frustrating. The good thing is, you got Game Time. That's why I use Game Time. That's why everybody should use Game Time. It's the app that gives you the advantage to take back to everything for the fans. Game Time is fast. It's easy. It's backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included. So the price you see is the price you're going to pay. Thank God, because it just feels like there's more and more fees being added up as everything goes up. And I pulled the Game Time up, and in just a couple of taps, you see all kinds of different deals. And I'll even look at it right now for you right now here. And I see some games now here. We got tickets under $100 moving forward. Maybe you want to go to Green Bay, watch the Commanders there at Lambeau. I got some friends going there. Just so you know, they use the Game Time app. I know it, and I made sure that they did. It's one of the best things that you could do. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. All right, Anthony Armstrong, Nick Ashooh, David Harrison's going to join us as soon as he can. I am looking at this offense, and I am feeling good as time goes on. You feel better in terms of like, okay, this thing's going to improve as we go forward. But the defensive side of the football today, specifically that defensive line, and specifically Daron Payne looking like he's 5 years younger. I don't know what the diet was. I don't know what he did this offseason, but let me tell you something. Guys will say they're coming in training camp and they're in the best shape of their lives. Daron Payne clearly is in the best shape he's been in a really long time.
Man, 2 tackles, 3 assists, and 1.5 sacks on the day. The man was active. He had a big pass breakup, if you will. Daron Payne was flying around. That defensive line, they are huge individuals. Okay, they were the stat line they put on there between Kinlaw, Armstrong, and Dietrich Wise. I think it was those 3. No, Goldman. Take Armstrong out, put Eddie Goldman in. They're all like 6'4" average, and then upwards of almost 1,000 pounds between the 3 of those guys. The defensive line, they're like 3 bullies just pushing and closing in on the quarterback. I think this is playing out the way I think they liked it and they wanted it to be. I'm loving the fact that they can get to the quarterback with 4. It unlocks Frankie Louvu to do what he needs to do. But man, they're just some bullies up there. They're really some bullies.
It was something that's insanely promising to see. And, coming into this year, one of my sort of just, I don't want to say that's like, honestly, to be honest with you, I hate the word take. When people say my take is, it just feels like it's an overused word. But like looking at all the conversation about the offense and where things were going in the preseason and Terry and guys being in and out, I thought, okay, you got a lot of veterans on this defense. You got some younger guys too, like a Trey Amos who had a big pass block late in that second half there. But when you look at the defense and the veterans, you got fresh veterans early. Like later in the season is when the bumps and bruises and everything hurts and it's like, but early on, this defense may have to carry the team a little bit more, strictly with the fact that you've got an offense that's just trying to figure things out a little bit and get in sync and get kind of on the same page. And you know who else we can bring in here? David Harrison, finally back from doing 5 things, jumping in, host of the Locked On Commanders podcast, now a part of this as well. But of course, you had about 10,000 things to do, I know, after the game. So you're down there on the field. You were in the locker room. You got kind of the feel. I'm just going to leave the floor open to you at this point because we've gone over the offense. We've looked at Jayden. We've looked at the wide receivers. We just kind of got into the defensive line a little bit here. Your overall impressions of this 21-6 win for the Commanders?
Yeah, so Nick, my take on this, I'm just joking, no, see you. I'm coming out of this thing looking at the newcomers, right? Like it's the new blood, and it's not just the rookies, but guys like Deebo Samuel Jr., who was a pest all game long, even though the stat box may not show all of it, right? Javon Kinlaw, especially early on, coming up with a big play. Will Harris was just all over the field during this game. And even rookies, Jacory Croskey-Merritt, Bill obviously had a really big impact as well. On top of some of the returning guys like Daron Payne, I'm just, really proud of him to kind of, see him come out and have this kind of a debut, because I know he's the kind of guy that wants to set this kind of tone. But the newcomers to this team really showed up in a big way, especially on defense. And I think that really is something that stands out to me when I look at the totality of this game.
When it comes to the offense, Anthony, I've spent a lot of time already talking about this, just, the work in progress, right? That's the word that was used a lot from Cliff Kingsbury this offseason, and we certainly saw it out there. There were times where it looked like maybe timing was off, or a lot of different things we could certainly go into. Yeah. What is your level of concern with this offense after what you saw? And again, very small sample size, 1 game. Yeah. There's a lot of season left, but you know how it is. We got to react. Right. We got to overreact. We have to freak out sometimes. That's how this works after the first week of the season, right?
Yeah, 100%. I would say that my level of concern was probably about a 6, I would say, like maybe a 6 going downstairs. Once I got downstairs, I got to talk to some of these guys, especially, Zach Ertz, guys who've been through this thing a long time. And a lot of times really kind of put my mind at ease, and the amount of things that are somewhat easily correctable, which makes them a little bit more frustrated that it's so easy to correct them, yet we still got them wrong, even in week 1, right? But the old adage, and it might be a little bit of a cliche, that defense, starts ahead of offense in the offseason, in the new season, while tackling is always kind of the caveat to that. I think it kind of stands true in this game. The Giants offense certainly didn't look like they were in rhythm and in sync throughout the game either. I think both these units, the next time they see each other, they're going to be a little bit better. I was surprised, honestly, from the Giants standpoint, we didn't see any Jackson Dart. Like I really kind of thought we would see a little bit of him. But by the time that these two teams see each other again, like I said, they're going to be more up to speed. And when you look at the Commanders and the amount of new pieces they have compared to last year, Deebo, even Noah Brown in the time that he missed last year coming back now, Jalen Lane, the rookie running back, just kind of the new pieces they're putting it in. I wasn't really super panicked, but then listening to the guys, especially guys like Brandon Coleman, man. I talked to Brandon Coleman about some of the easy mistakes and simple things they need to fix, and just the calmness in it, but also the determination in it, and just the understanding. I mean, what his football IQ is obviously greater than mine. Playing in the trenches the way that he does, these old linemen, their intelligence is off the charts. But just listening to him kind of talk about, yeah, man. So we'll get back to work tomorrow. Then we got Tuesday. Then we got Wednesday, man. By the time we get to Green Bay, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bro, I think, by the time we see you on Thursday night, it's going to be a Super Bowl caliber offense. That's a little bit ridiculous of an expectation, I think, but it just gives you confidence that they not only understand what they fell short on, but they know how to fix it.
I know this much. Whenever you come out of a game and not even watching the tape and know where you messed up, that gives me a lot of calm. And that's why I was saying, Nick, I'm not too worried about it because everything is fixable. And I love the fact that the defense gave the offense enough time to kind of get their wits and rolls about them. We didn't touch on the tight end position, but I do want to speak about the tight end position. Zach Ertz did what he did. John Bates blocked his ass off. And if I can't say that, my bad. Y'all can dock me $5, $10. But good, because John Bates deserved – because on that run for Bill Merritt, John Bates was the one who made that lead block that sprung that play. What did you see from the tight end room, specifically 82? I know I don't know if he played much offense, Ben said, but the top two guys look pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, the top two guys are exactly what you want to be. Zach obviously beat himself up over those early mistakes that he made, especially. But, on Locked On Commanders, he was my fantasy must start of the week because I was like, look, this Giants defense is bend, don't break. They're going to force a lot of red zone possessions by the Commanders offense, and that usually means Zach Ertz in the end zone. And very early on, he kind of delivered on that prediction, so you love to see that. But Zach, again, knows that, his standard of expectation, he told us 21 points against any opponent is not enough. That's not our standard. So we're not happy with that. We got to fix that. John Bates, like you said, I love the amount of credit that he's finally getting just across the board from fellow players, coaches, media, on shows like this one. And it's certainly well deserved. Ben Sinnott, I think that obviously the draft status, where he was drafted, obviously creates a little bit of that anticipation and expectation. And then even the frustration of not having seen as much as we have out of him so far. I think the good news is, while they continue to work on him and his potential figuring out these two guys, Zach Ertz and John Bates,
I think he might be going in and out a little bit there. Yeah.
I think he went into the no-fly zone and Will Harris was back there and was like, no service for David, right? That's my take, at least.
All right. It looks like we got a little bit of a clearer picture. Listen, it's funny. Like, we all depend on technology, yet it lets us down so much. And you will, at some point on this show with me, guys, hear me rant about how technology lets us down on a regular basis. So just get ready for that. Chris Rodriguez, David, was a healthy scratch today. Was that a surprise at all to people? Was that kind of expected? And what is sort of the early, we'll just stick with early, kind of running back rotation maybe look like for this team?
You're asking me about the running back rotation?
Yep.
Yeah, so, I do this.
I think we might be, this may not be working here at all. Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, now I suddenly can't hear you, Anthony, so that's always good.
That's because I had pressed the mute button. This is live
okay,
TV.
Good. Oh, you were the live. Mute guy, huh?
You were the mute guy. My bad. I got kids back here. I got dogs barking. I'm trying to keep the noise down as much as I can over here. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to do my part. David, welcome back, man.
Yeah, let me come back down this way and see if I'll just stay in this area down here. Talking about the running backs, though. I did, this is what I was saying, Anthony, I think you find this humorous, right? As a media member, I do the Saturday bonus episode where I basically lay out my game plan. And it's very clear that it's just me as a media member trying to kind of deduce what I can. And, the inside run. ace, halfback duo, all that stuff, like things that they act. For me, when I look at this running back room, like, Chris Rodriguez kind of fits that mold a little bit more than maybe Jacory Croskey-Merritt does. And I said on the show, I said, listen, for what I see, for what I'm talking about, for me, if we're only carrying 3 backs, it's going to be Chris, and Jacory's going to be inactive, unfortunately. But I believe Jacory is going to be active and Chris Rodriguez will be inactive. So I did expect it, even though I said personally that wouldn't necessarily be the move that I would make. But the good news is the coaching staff sees way more of these guys than I do, knows them way better than I do. And, what was the 10 carries for 850 yards or something that Bill had today clearly proved the coaching staff right. So you love to see that. But I do love when I can pat myself on the back a little bit and talk about how they try to anticipate those inside runs and sealing those things off, like you mentioned with John Bates on that big touchdown run. So, good strategy. Obviously, I think that Jacory, if he hasn't played himself into even more snaps on Thursday night, I don't know what else he could do. When's the last time you guys have heard of a 7th round rookie doing podiums after his first game?
Did Alfred Morris do? I don't know what Alfred had in his first round. I don't know if he was 7th round, but it had to be that far back, honestly. If anything,
it's a rarity, and he was beaming, man. Just the biggest smile as you'd ever see on the face.
I love it, man. I'm excited for that. There's a question that came out, and maybe it was just because I was watching on TV, but Blaine was asking, did Jayden's timing seem a little bit off to any? I thought he was a little bit late on a few passes, but maybe it was TV. What did you see in person?
There were a couple that were late, sure. There was one out route specifically, I believe it was in third quarter, that was specifically late. And, a lot of times those late out routes or outbreaking routes are our poison pill, right, for a quarterback. Fortunately, he just hit the ground and nothing else happened to it. But then there was that pass that Terry, I swear he caught it. That was another late ball that Terry made a really great play on to kind of help out his quarterback. That's what a veteran, a star receiver will do for you. So that helps out. The one deep ball to Terry McLaurin, I sent you guys just in a text, and I sent it out on X as well. It looks to me more like when Terry went to get upfield, he unfortunately, whether it was lack of balance or contact from the DB, kind of drifted towards the sideline a little bit more than he intended to. And obviously that throws the timing off of the route as well. And, those are things that I think from a Terry perspective specifically, looking training camp, that's kind of where those things show up a little bit. But those are things that if we go back to, this time last year, I think we'd all agree that the offense and Jayden specifically still looks advanced this week where he did, compared to where he did against Tampa last week. And that's at least a silver lining to take away from the team.
Yeah, I will agree that this offense, they didn't go back to 101 to get things going to then kind of grow throughout the season. They started out with some new wrinkles, and I'm going all the way back to the touchdown to Zach Ertz because I tweeted it out. It was so diabolical whenever that linebacker went out on the injury. And then 2 plays later, they're like empty. Hey, do a little out motion so you can get stacked, get one-on-one with this linebacker. Oh, he crossed him up so nasty. Zach Ertz, really, they put that was diabolical. I'm happy for that. Let's go secondary-wise because the guy, we were talking wide receivers, Trey Amos. He's going to get him a couple picks this year. All in all, what do they say about the secondary in the press conferences and what they feel about their overall performance?
Yeah, they've been talking about the secondary lately as, kind of being the brains of that operation. Obviously, they don't set the defense or anything, but a lot of communication going on from the back end to the front end and just making sure that everybody sees things the right way. And you saw a lot of that communication taking place on the field throughout the game. But like you said, Trey Amos, man, just in position where you need him to be in position. The one really bad, secondary rep that you could look at and say, Malik ends up wide open, kind of crossed up Quan Martin. But, Malik Neighbors is one of those talents that's going to be able to do that. Talking to Quan Martin after the game, just gutted that they took that interception away from him, man. That was something that he and I had talked about in the locker room before the game, was just kind of look at it, man, just the potential for the pressure to impact what the back end is going to receive, right? And we all know how this works. You get pressure on the quarterback, eventually he starts to do things that he wouldn't normally do. And Russell Wilson, man, threw up that air ball and it was right there for the plucking. And unfortunately, if you disagree with the penalty, like I clearly do, they got robbed. And if you agree with the penalty, then hey, it's fair game, right? But either way, I think the good sign for this week, and again, kind of a side by side, week 1 this year to week 1 last year, you have the forced fumble, you have the interception that got taken away by the penalty. And there's some other opportunities where guys are in position, maybe don't just complete the play to get the takeaway. And I think those are the encouraging signs, because once those things start becoming takeaways versus potential takeaways, that's when things can really shift into the Commanders' advantage.
You know, one of the things too with this team, and we obviously saw it last year, but seeing it again even early on in this game, is that they have a very short memory. We know that they're obviously
Yeah.
very clutch, and we know what they do in these comebacks and these late game situations. But even just something as simple as like Zach Ertz with that big drop early on, and then he scores a touchdown, like you start to see more and more of that. And there's just a level of confidence with them that just kind of is a testament to like top down, right? Like attitude reflects leadership,
Yeah.
and it comes from the top all the way down. And to just kind of see where they are with that mindset, where it's like short memory, forget about it. I mean, we used to joke about Rex Grossman having a short memory every time he threw a pick, but like it was true. He's like, I don't care. I'm going right back and I'm doing it again. It can also be a good thing. And you're really seeing here now where it's like mistakes don't linger with this team like a stench.
I love a good Rex Grossman shout out, because man, Sexy Rexy he would look at you in the huddle. He'd call a play and look at me, and I'm like, I already know what you're doing, Playboy. I see you in the end zone. But yeah, they don't get flustered. You know, if a bad play happens, maybe you take a step back and they understand we're gonna be all right. And I think it all starts with 5. I really do. I think the quarterback is the guy that calms everybody's nerves and lets you know, hey, we're gonna be all right. And you do have to give a hat tip to Dan Quinn. He's done a hell of a job just leading these guys and making sure they're in the right place mentally, building the right architecture with players in certain positions. Gerald said cardiac commanders part 2. I don't got it, Gerald. I don't want that cardiac stuff, man. let the game be over about the third quarter, fourth quarter. We like, all right, man, I kick my feet up. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, it's a long
inevitable,
season,
though.
man. We don't need all the blood pressure moments, right? I mean, this stadium, they turned on Enter Sandman, and all the Vodtech fans started jumping around in the stands, and all the non-Vodtech fans said, "Hey, that looks fun too. Let me do that with them." And they started doing it. And I know Jalen Lane was turned up on the sideline. Jeremy Reeves was air guitaring on the field, and there's still minutes left in the game. That's what you want. That's ultimately what you live for, to be able to celebrate those moments. Look, I mean, the Hail Marys, the last second, incompletions forced on the 2-point conversion, all those things are exciting. But man, just let us, I don't know, finish your ice cream or whatever it is in the stand and the press box in peace. That's what I think everybody wants. But you got to talk about that mentality, man, and the trickle down effect of that really was present, I think, today, because Josh Connerly Jr., the rookie right tackle, I mean, very specifically got beat pretty badly on one rep, sacked by Brian Burns. Brian had those 2 sacks on one drive, but beat the rookie pretty bad on one of them. And I was talking to another lineman about it and how impressed they were that Josh was able to come back from that and have a rather solid game after that rep. Because that's one of those situations where a rookie can, get embarrassed a little bit by a vet. And certainly not the first tackle to get embarrassed by Brian Burns. It won't be the last one. But, he could let that get into his head and snowball into an even worse game and all those things. But he didn't, and he showed that resiliency. And like you guys said, I think it's an atmospheric thing. Something about Adam Peters. And, look, I haven't covered every team in the NFL, obviously, and so everybody's always limited by their own experiences. But a lot of times I haven't seen NFL GMs enter a locker room, and obviously Ron Rivera is a little bit different because of his dual status. But I haven't seen these guys enter a locker room after a game to congratulate players and talk to guys and things like that. I mean, Adam Peters is in this locker room every game talking to somebody, and sometimes it's a guy that had a rough game and you just leave them to their business. But sometimes it's a guy like Bill. We saw him come in today and just had a little bit of a private conversation with Jacory Croskey-Merritt after the game he had, and you love seeing leadership like that.
Well,
Something you haven't seen for a while up there.
Yeah, and it helps when you don't have to negotiate a contract anymore with anybody either, and you can just be the guy that goes in and is everybody's friend again because all that stuff's done. So.
That's what he said. He said if you ball out, don't try to renegotiate already. Let's get to the
right. Everybody happy, good. I don't want to go through any of that like I had to with Terry again. No more of that, please. All right, coming up, we're gonna look ahead, early look to the short week. Green Bay coming up on Thursday night, and Santana Moss inducted into the Ring of Fame for this team. This is the Commander Squad Show. All right, Commanders fans, are you paying full price for gas? Yeah, you probably are. You don't want to do that. Stop leaving money behind. Get the real cash back every time you fill up the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. You can use the limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill-up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying gas. You already need it. You're not going to change anything, so just get a little money back in the process. First, I did think it was kind of too good to be true. I have used it. It is actually legit. It's nice. They get it right into your account. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, just to drive, just to go get groceries. Doesn't matter. You're actually getting a little bit back. You get cash back on cards. You might as well get some cash back on this too. You just don't want this offer to actually go by you at all. Drive by. See what I did there? Download the free Upside app now by using the limited promo code touchdown for a limited time and get that 25 cents per gallon bonus. That's promo code touchdown. Now offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. All right, and we are now into the final segment of the first show, the debut show of the Commander Squad podcast. And it's good to have David here with us as well. And I know you were there for the Ring of Fame induction for Santana Moss. Just kind of lay that out for us and what that was like.
That was great to see. You know what I mean? And what was even better about it is the people who are kind of in his inner circle, in his multiple circles, right? Well, we all have these multiple circles. You got your work inner circle, you got your friends, you got your family. They're really all here for him, and some of his battle buddies and what he does for the Commanders. Brian was out there to MC, and Brian Mitchell was out there to kind of welcome him into the ring and kind of talk about, how they're going to be immortal together forever. Now, the sun actually might be down. You're not gonna be able to read it, but right about there is where Santana's name is gonna live famously, for the rest of Washington football eternity. And it's just great to see. My listeners on Locked On Commanders know this. I've said this multiple times, not as any type of thing, but just I didn't grow up a fan of this franchise. I didn't grow up a fan of any NFL franchise, to be honest with you, just a fan of football. And so for me, I've got players that I always kind of looked to, and Santana was one of those players while he was playing that I was just like, man, like every time I load up the Madden, and he's one of the first trades I'm making, those realistic trades that we can do on Madden. I'm always pulling Santana onto whatever franchise I'm rebuilding. So to get to know him a little bit doing what I do, and get to know that, he's also a good man and someone that's worth, cheering for, on the field, off the field, whatever it is, man. To see him get, his flowers, so to speak, and to see the people who were here to be able to hand those to him. I know it meant just as much for them to be a part of it as it was for Santana to be in the ring.
Man, I wish I could have been there because that's big brother to me. My first time getting to Washington, had two people to follow, Randall L. and Santana Moss. So whatever they did, I did. I mean, I picked up Santana's whatever treatment plan he had. I was like, whatever you're doing, I'm doing, and it ended up having a successful season. So learned so much from him, man. Much deserved, well deserved. Somebody who's never gonna boast or brag about anything on his own. So you're right, Dave. I'm glad he got his flowers. And the one thing I learned from Santana Moss, he always shows up in his plaid polos, and he gonna have some jeans on and fitted. He said, if I can't show up like this, I ain't going. So I'm glad my man got put into the hall. He was able to show up his way. Congratulations, 8 to the 9, man. Well deserved.
And too, it's like he's somebody that even late in his career, we talk about how important Zach Ertz is right now to Jayden Daniels. Santana Moss, man, that was even if maybe, listen, maybe the speed comes down a little bit at the end of every look. We all get a little bit slower in various ways as Mother Nature catches up to us, Father Time, whatever. But he was always somebody. I'll remember that. It was like 2012 with RG3, 3rd and 3. Who's he going to? He's going to Santana Moss on those plays. And every quarterback certainly has to have that go-to guy. And Santana Moss went from, number one receiver to even that, but like just a really great career for, especially during a time when there were certainly ups and downs. Like, let's be honest with ourselves here, but it's definitely it's a different era now. So it's great to see him get recognized for just, what he's done for this organization. And now we can all take a deep breath because this is a team that is 1-0, but short week heading to Green Bay, Thursday Night Football. David, I'll start with you. We're looking ahead to that game. I'm sure it was at least discussed a little bit in the locker room, discussed after the game. Early thoughts looking ahead to that game.
Yeah, I mean, a really good team, right? A playoff caliber team. Obviously, that a lot of people would argue probably should have beat the eventual Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles last year in the playoffs. And they only got better with Micah Parsons. We'll have to see what Micah looks like in his debut for that team. But he's going to have another, couple of days or whatever to get ready. And at the end of the day, Micah just knows how to play ball, and he knows this team from facing them twice last year. So he's got a little bit of an advantage in that preparation. it just kind of really, hopefully, kind of gives everybody like a little bit of an appreciation of what these teams and these players and these coaches go through. Because I'll tell you guys, I was up late last night myself, trying to prepare a little bit ahead of time for this Packers game, and I'm just like, man, I can't imagine. I've got to prepare just to talk about this game for the next couple of days, 2, 3 days. I can imagine having to prepare for this game and my actual life and livelihood and my players or my fellow coaches' livelihoods actually matter about this. I'm like, it's a little overwhelming just trying to prepare for it on a short turn, trying to sound smart about what you're saying. So, but yeah, we talked about it, tell everybody, Dietrich Wise just about the preparation and taking care of your body. And Zach Ertz about the same thing, but also the young guys, just the excitement, young guys. I mean, look, getting the Colts up a little bit, get back to work, and you're probably going to feel all right by Wednesday, right? But I think Zach Ertz made the best point, I think, is that they're still kind of in that training camp mode right now. Like, they haven't really broken out of the training camp mode already, so really their bodies, their mentality, their battle rhythm is kind of okay with this. Like, it really isn't going to feel that much different than what they've been going through all summer long. I think that's a really great point to having one of these early Thursday night games. And I think this experience, when they go into another short week, in December for that Christmas game, is going to serve them really well. Obviously, we'll talk about that when the time comes.
What about you, Anthony? Any early thoughts on that too?
Yeah, I'm glad I was on mute because I had a point and I lost it. But the thing is, you're going up there to Green Bay on this short week. I'm glad you get it out of the way now. And David, the thing is you're not trying to study a whole bunch. The best part is that they're going to have one game of tape, and that's about it. So it's all about you. It's all about in the building. It's all about what the Commanders do themselves, because frankly, it's another nameless face in jersey that's across from you that you're going to have to go up against. You still got to get open. You still got to catch the ball. You still got to put it in the end zone. So ultimately, they're going to sit back and they're going to watch the tape of this game. They're going to see a little bit what they do. You know who Micah Parsons is, but you know where he's not allowed to go, and that's anywhere near Jayden Daniels. So as long as that's the game plan, you execute that, you're giving yourself a chance to get a W on Thursday.
All right, I was looking to see if we maybe had some look aheads to next week. That is not up right now for anybody that maybe likes to dabble in that, but we'll certainly look at that as we get closer to it. All right, Commanders 21-6 win over the Giants. It is a great way to start the season. Things to work on in a short week. Heading to Green Bay next. We're going to be doing this twice a week after every Commanders game and then throughout the week as well. Short week this week, so we'll cram everything in as much as we can. Anthony Armstrong, David Harrison, Nick Ashooh. Make sure you also check out the Locked On Commanders podcast. That's not going anywhere. We're just adding more coverage to this team as time goes on. Whew, we got right in here. We got to do this, guys. I hope I pushed all the right buttons on here as I did all that too. This was fun. We are going to be back this week again. And of course, make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Follow us across the board on all the social media platforms as well. It's what you got to do now. Share this with everybody. Get involved. We're back. Commander Squad all season long. We'll talk to you soon.